Cenk, here we have two candidates who are two of the most disliked candidates in modern US presidential history. One's been accused of being a sexual predator, the other's been dogged by allegations of misusing a private email server. I mean, here we have a country of over 300 million people. How did we end up with these two people?
Yeah. Well, for good reason. So I think Frank's right on a lot of the factors that play in here. So first off, Hillary Clinton is a symbol of the corruption that people are sick of in the establishment. Is she the most corrupt politician? No. That honor is probably a tie among 100 of them. But she's a symbol of that corruption because her family has taken in $3 billion from donors, whether it was in personal money, foundation money, or campaign donations. And people look at that and they think, do you think we're stupid? If somebody gives you $3 billion, that means you owe them and you're going to pay them back. It's systemic corruption, not personal corruption. So they look at that and they go, oh, God, that's the same old establishment that's been crushing us. It's the politicians in bed with the multinational corporations that lower our wages, that lower our opportunities for jobs. Now, on the other hand, you've got Donald Trump. He's got guys, his supporters chanting USA, saying that Zionism is the biggest problem in America. And so he's unleashed this Balrog of hate, and it's because people are so sick of the establishment, they're looking for some sort of populist alternative. And of course, populism can lead in a positive strain if you say, hey, let's overturn the system and work for the American middle class, or it can lead in a really ugly, hateful direction as Donald Trump is taking it.
Cenk, when we look at these candidates, as we pointed out, they disliked candidates. And if you listen to what Donald Trump has said, talking about deporting millions of undocumented immigrants, talking about building a wall on the Mexico-US border, talking about not allowing Muslims to come into this country. I mean, these are bizarre things that he's been saying, bigoted things that he's been saying, yet he has such a lot of support in the country for that. I mean, it resonates with a big part of the population, doesn't it?
It does. Well, I think there are two factors here. Funny enough, Hillary Clinton was the most right for the speech she was most criticized for. That's the basket of deplorables speech. In that speech, the part that's forgotten is she said about half of Trump supporters are right to be angry. And she's right. So a lot of those guys think, well, I now have a job at Walmart. I used to have a decent job in an assembly line, and I used to be proud of my job, and I wanted to pass it along to my kids. Now they can't pass it along to their kids. They're stuck in a minimum wage job. They got no respect left for what they're doing. Now Donald Trump has misdirected their frustration and anger towards the most powerless people in the country. He keeps saying the system is rigged. Who rigged it? The guy who just crossed the border from Mexico? Of course not. He's got no power. The people who rigged it are Donald Trump's supporters. So he's taken that anger and put it in the wrong direction. Now, half of Trump supporters, on the other hand, are really deplorable. They are racist. They are bigoted. They are sexist. And so when Trump says those things, they're not supporting him despite the fact that he said these terrible things. They're supporting him because he said those things. The number one thing you hear from his supporters is, oh, finally somebody's saying what I've been thinking. Well, that tells you exactly what they've been thinking. Look, the reason that this anger is bubbling up right now is because the establishment is what created this situation. They take tremendous amounts of money from multinational corporations. We've now legalized bribery in America. We call it campaign donations and independent expenditures. So they give millions, in fact, billions of dollars to politicians. And then what do the politicians do? They rig the rules so that the minimum wage is incredibly low, so that they've got offshore tax havens. They've got every incentive to offshore the jobs. And the list goes on and on and on. Yes, the system is rigged. It is rigged by the establishment because they've been bought off completely by these powerful interests. So then the American people, when they're mad, we shouldn't be surprised. The media never told you about it. Unfortunately, the giant corporate media is part of the same problem. They're also part of multinational corporations. And so they don't want the American people to know. But guess what? They do know. They know it in their gut. And so when you try to lie to them, one of the results is you get a guy like Trump who comes in and goes, okay, great, hand me that anger and I will head it in the exact wrong direction. Well, I don't want anybody to mistake what I'm saying, okay? This is not a conspiracy where somebody does it in a smoke-filled room. The conspiracy is out in the open. we allow a campaign system where they're allowed to give millions of dollars to politicians. So of course the politicians work for them. Everybody knows that. So that's what keeps the wages low.
Right.
I'm not saying the steel jobs are coming back, but I am saying that our representatives don't represent us. They represent the people who give them millions and billions of dollars. Of course they do. That is what I mean when I say it's rigged. It's wide out in the open.